Welcome to the Flex Rental Solutions webinar. Today we're going to talk about numbering schemes, specifically numbering schemes when we're dealing with inventory and resource types. So to start, let's look at our inventory settings. We briefly looked at this last week, but we're going to focus primarily on the numbering scheme here, how you can set up new inventories, new numbering schemes, and how you can edit your current numbering schemes. So in the inventory module settings, which again was in inventory and inventory settings, the item numbering scheme that's set up here is the numbering scheme that will be applied whenever you create a new inventory model. So for example, if I were to create, or let's go up to the inventory menu and click new inventory item. We'll just call this a test item. And it doesn't matter what the structure and availability is. It could be a non-serialized, it could be serialized, or any of these other variations. But when we add this item, it's going to assign it. Oh, I need to select a group. When I add the item, though, it's going to assign it to, or it's going to assign a barcode to it. And that's its model barcode. A lot of times people don't even use this model barcode unless it's for a non-serialized item, and then you would use this model barcode to scan non-serialized units or non-serialized quantities out. But most of the time you're using the barcodes that are associated with serial units for your serialized items. Those are the actual ones that you're scanning. And so the difference being the model barcode, like I said, is controlled by this item numbering scheme, which right now is set as a 5-digit sequential. But you can set up your serial units to each have a different numbering scheme based on the resource type. So let's look at system settings and resource types. And for example, if we look at our rental resource type, so we'll double click to open that, you can see that you can set up its own numbering scheme. Right now it's also the 5-digit sequential, but if I wanted, I could choose a 5-digit random. So let's save that and show an example of how that works in just a second. But also if we look at our retail, let's double click in here, you can see the numbering scheme is set to none. If the numbering scheme is set to none for a particular resource type, then it will just default to the setting that was in your inventory module settings. So right now this will default to the 5-digit sequential. And also you may have noticed that when you receive subrentals, by default it uses the subrental numbering scheme, which if we go look at our numbering schemes right now in system settings and numbering schemes and double click on subrental, we can see that the subrental numbering scheme has a custom prefix that will say sub before the barcode. And so let's look at some examples of how all of these look. So remember, for rental I chose the 5-digit random. So if I add a serial unit, then you can see that the barcode is this 5-digit random that includes both numbers and letters. If I choose to add a retail serial unit, or actually right now the way that it's set, if it's set up as none, then it will set up without a barcode. So sorry, that was my mistake. If we go back to resource types, double click on retail, let's assign it the 5-digit sequential. And now let's go back to that test item. And when we add that retail, then it will give us that 5-digit sequential. And you'll notice that the sequence is at 752 right now, and you can control that in your inventory settings right here with the current inventory sequence. If I were to close this and reopen the inventory settings, then you'll see that that sequence has moved up because I've added a couple of units. And I can change that if I want. If I click this check to edit sequence, I can say from now on I only want inventory to add barcodes from 1000 and above. And you'll notice that you can't move backwards on this. Sequence can only be moved up, not down. So anything that I add from now on is going to add starting at 1000. So let's go back to that test item, add a retail unit again, and you'll see that it's now started at the 1000. And then for a subrental, this isn't typically how you would add a subrental to your system. Usually you would create a rental PO and then go to receiving, enter that rental, or open the rental PO and receive those items, and it will automatically assign a barcode. But just for the sake of an example, so we can get through this quickly, let's add a serial unit that's a subrental. And you can see that it's using the subrental numbering scheme here. And so like I said, you can change any of these numbering schemes, and you can create new numbering schemes. Again, this is on your System Settings menu and Numbering Schemes. So since we were just doing a subrental, let's look at the subrental numbering scheme and see how we could change that. So this is by default how it's set up. It's a sequential, so it's going to take the sequence that we have right here, but it's also going to give it a custom prefix of sub. And you can change this. Maybe you want it to say the full subrental and then the barcode. Or maybe you want it to say sub and then you can put in a separator of a dash. So right now you saw when I added that sub, it was just sub directly followed by the barcode. But if I do sub dash barcode, let's update that and see what that looks like. And let's just quickly add another subrental unit. So you can see there's that dash now. And you can also control how many digits appear in the barcode. So let's say the max digits is 7 and click update. Go back to our test item and add another serial unit. And so now you can see that we have the sub prefix, dash, and then a 7-digit barcode. And since the sequence is only at 1004, then the other 3 digits are just zeros at the front. Of course, we could do the same with any of these. You probably don't want to edit the 5-digit sequential just because that's a very straightforward name. That's just 5 digits and it's sequential, so there's probably not much that you want to do to edit that. But you can create a new numbering scheme. So when you're on the numbering schemes page, you just click New Scheme. And as I was talking with Chris in preparation for this, he said that some of our customers, especially our customers that might subrent their own gear out quite a bit, they might want to create a custom barcode with their company name or the initials of their company name in the barcode, so that when they send those out, then people know that that specific unit that they're receiving is coming from them because it has their custom barcode. So we could create this new numbering scheme that will create a custom barcode that's specific to your company. So for this one, maybe I would call this Brandon's Company. And I could just choose, I'll just do a sequential. This sequence from Common Pool, this would be used more for when you're doing numbering schemes for your different elements. An example of this would be if you're setting up a numbering scheme, for example, your rental POs, your purchase POs, and your labor POs, and you want just all of your POs, regardless if it's a rental, purchase, or a labor, to follow the same sequence, then you can say sequence from a Common Pool yes. So if you create a rental PO, it would be PO 1001, and then you create a purchase PO, it would be 1002, and then create a labor PO, it would be 1003. So it would just sequence from the Common Pool. This isn't really applicable to inventory, so we'll just keep that as no. As the custom prefix, let's just do BR, my initials, or you could do the company name, or whatever works for you there. Let's put a separator in there. And let's also increase this up to 6. So the maximum digits in my barcodes will be 6. I'll click Create. And now I can go back and assign that new numbering scheme to any of my resource types. So let's try rental. Let's double click on rental. And we can choose the new Brandon's Company numbering scheme that will only apply to when I'm adding a new rental serial unit. So if I add a new retail, it's still only going to go to the 5-digit sequential. If I add a new sub-rental, it will still use the sub prefix barcode. So this is only applying to when I add a new rental resource type, or a rental serial unit, I should say. So let's go back to the test item and just quickly add a new serial unit that is a rental type. I click Add, and now you can see that it's giving me that custom barcode with my prefix. And so that you can create as many numbering schemes as you want and apply them to your different resource types for inventory if you want each resource type to have a different numbering scheme. And of course, if you want to delete any of your numbering schemes, then you can just simply do that by clicking the delete button here. So if you have any other questions about numbering schemes and how they work within Flex, then you can visit our forum and find the topic on this particular webinar and just post a response. And also you can use our support email, support@flexrentalsolutions.com.